we go. All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone to our event of this month, where we are going to talk about how outcome-oriented thinking gets you where you want to go, which is a super interesting topic. And we have today Tami Reiss here to tell you more about it. And I'll introduce her in a bit and get started. It's a very interesting topic because one of the most important things as product managers, what we do is make sure we have a vision and give everyone direction on where we want to go with our product. On how to do that, that's a whole different story. And Tami is going to explain us much more about it. So looking forward to that. But before we get started, let me quickly also do an introduction. So maybe first, if you don't know who BPMA is, a quick introduction. So we're the leading professional organization in the greater Boston area, and we are dedicated to career development of product managers and product marketing. So we do events like these every month, an online event, but we also organize some in-person events. So make sure you keep an eye on the website and the newsletter. You'll get to know what we are organizing. We also provide some content like blogs, for example, and also mentorships and a job board to help you with your career development and finding your next great opportunity. So we also have some sponsors and partners that we work with, like Pragmatic Institute, NDT, and Product Board. And also, as you see below, some others that sponsor us as well. They're very valuable resources. Please check out what is available to you from them. And then before we get started, first let me mention also that we have some upcoming events in July, for example, on FinTech. We also have in June an online networking event and in August an in-person event. And we're going to focus in August on AI. So some exciting things that will come up next. So for today, a few guiding principles. We encourage you to put your cameras on. You don't have to, but it's nice if you want to do that. We encourage networking. Please use the Zoom chat to introduce yourself with your name, your LinkedIn profile, and also feel free to ask any question in the chat as we have some time reserved also to answer your questions, and Tami is more than happy to do that. So feel free to use the chat for that. So then I'll introduce today's speaker. We have Tami Reiss here in the call, our product leader coach, coaching up-and-coming product leaders and a speaker around the world actually about management and strategy. And you can see here that she has a wealth of experience. We have a true veteran here amongst us today. And yeah, with that, Tami, I'm going to give the word to you and you can introduce yourself a little bit more and then I'll give the floor to you.
Sure. Hi, we can leave this screen on just for a second. I have not worked directly for each of these companies. I alternated between working in-house, so that's the top row, and doing a lot of consulting and coaching. And then at the bottom row, you'll see all of the places that I've either taught product management or recently there's actually a roadmap course that got launched last week with Product-Led Alliance that I created the whole course of. So either it's a course creation or something else, but I love talking about product management and I love helping product leaders be awesome and help other product people be awesome. So that is important. And now, I think that Xandra actually had a slide that I don't see, but if all of you could put into your into the chat just where you're coming from and stuff, that would be amazing. So that will just help me understand like how many people are actually Bostonians and how many people are from other places like me, who's from Miami. Yeah, Tami from Miami. So hopefully there's like a colorful background behind me. We're trying out this new Zoom view where you can see the slides right here. And I am right here and you get to see these cool BPMA sort of colors. All right.
Looks perfect.
Works perfect. I like perfect. So as a consultant, as a coach, I ask, what are your goals? So often that this is the Bitmoji and the signature of every LinkedIn post I ever put up. So goals are incredibly important, But what are your goals? And questions like, what does success look like, can actually be really daunting. And if I had to ask you, do you know your company's goals right now? And could you clearly articulate your company's vision and mission? And could you, with confidence, say that everyone else on your team or everyone else in the company could do that? Most of you wouldn't say yes. It's not something that very many companies can say with confidence, that everyone in their company knows exactly where we're going and how we're going to get there. Yet, if I asked you to show me your roadmap for next year, you'd be able to. If I asked you to show me your backlog of user stories of the things you were going to build, you'd be able to. And so my question to you is, how did you come up with all of those answers and make all of those decisions if the goals weren't clear to you? How did you choose what was going to be in or out if the objectives weren't apparent? And that's part of what we do as product managers. I get it, but I believe there is a better way. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because from my perspective, the primary role of leadership is to make decisions, specifically decisions which guide other people's decisions. And to me, all product managers are leaders. Whether or not you are actually managing other people doesn't make a difference. You make decisions which guide other people's decisions. Every time we write a user story, that guides an engineer to decide what to code. Every time we write acceptance criteria, that guides QA or developer to write tests appropriately. Every time we create a wireframe or a prototype, that guides what will be built. And my favorite thing I learned recently is that the word decide actually comes from the same place as other words that end in side, like pesticide, which kills pests. But in the case of decide, what we're killing ideas, and we're killing uncertainty, and we're killing anything that might stop us from focus. And the role of leadership is to make these harder choices, these bigger decisions, so that everybody on their own level can make decisions and strike out ambiguity and strike out uncertainty at their level with confidence. And so as product managers, again, independent of whether or not you lead a team, your role is to do this and to do it with confidence and to do it with trust. Because when we do not do this properly, and unfortunately, there are so many companies where this is the case, where there isn't strong leadership and they haven't set out strong goals, what happens is that there's what I like to call the anxiety spiral. And this eventually leads to decision fatigue. I'll give you an example. You were just provided with an idea. Now we're going to analyze that idea. We're going to make a list of pros and cons, whether or not this is going to help us move forward. We are going to look at the trade-offs. We're going to run some customer segmentation analysis or otherwise. If we're lucky, all of those data points will point us in the same direction. But let's be clear, that pretty much never happens. So we have to evaluate trade-offs and we have to make choices. And sometimes we get stuck in analysis paralysis so long that we don't make a choice. And that lack of choice is actually really a poor choice, because whatever problem we were trying to solve still exists. And we've now wasted a lot of time and energy having a discussion or multiple hours of discussions that led nowhere, which is demoralizing and bad. But let's go into the situation where after a ton of analysis, you actually made a choice. But because of all the other choices out there, because of the paradox of choice, you then are left with some self-doubt. Did we make the right choice? Did we really weigh all the pros and cons properly? You start second guessing. You start losing sleep, especially as you get closer and closer and closer to it actually launching. You're like, oh my gosh, what order should these slides be in? Did the bullet points correct? Do I have the right graphic here? All the sorts of things that we get worried about because we spent so much time in analysis and nothing was actually that clear as to what the best choice was. And then, more often than not right now, we launch things that do not have impact. In the real world, we call that buyer's remorse, because we've invested time, energy, money in something that didn't have impact. And we feel bad about that. Hindsight is 2020. We look back and we said, God, if only we had done something different or better, maybe we would have produced a decision which created something with impact. And do you know what we say to ourselves? You know what? We needed to do more analysis. We needed more data points. And then the spiral just gets worse. Because what happens is we now have more competing information that makes it more unclear to us as to what that decision should be. And this happens all the time. For product managers, we have to worry about what the OKRs are, what the features are, what the bugs are, which partners we're going to work with, which platforms we're going to support. Is it going to be iOS or Android or desktop only, or none of them? We're only going to be on a gaming platform. I don't know. Which user roles we're going to create, whether or not there are customers we're going to help or not help because they're part of our ideal customer profile or not. Which bugs are we just going to consider user error or not that big of a deal? They can just stay there for a while. And my favorite, what color should the button be? Because that's what a lot of people, like product managers, decide. And I think we're all aware that it's actually designers who make those sorts of choices. But we make a lot of choices all day long, and that creates this exhaustion, this decision fatigue. And we, as leaders, have an opportunity to make this better. We have an opportunity to make this better for the people we work with and people that are throughout our organization and really much in our lives. Because if we can reduce this cognitive exhaustion, this decision-making fatigue, if we can help people get out of analysis paralysis and make rocket fast decisions, they will have more free time to focus on what's important. If we can help them know with confidence that that choice is the correct choice, they will have a lot less self-doubt, a lot less stress, and hopefully start sleeping easier. And who wouldn't want that in their lives? And finally, hopefully, if you have a good framework that you can deploy and you can help your teammates deploy to help make decisions quickly and correctly, you will actually be successful. And wouldn't that be awesome? Because when we're successful, we feel good about the work that we're doing. We feel good about the people we're working with. We feel good about the company we're working for. And that is real success. So, hi, I'm Tami. I've been in product for almost 20 years, and my superpower is making decisions. For years now, when people ask me, what do product managers do? I answer, we're the people who decide what to do next. We're the people you want in a room to decide what to do next. And I've done a lot of teaching around the product mindset and product strategy and how it is we make these decisions. I've done a lot of coaching and consulting. I now work with executives to teach them how to make choices that influence other people's choices, right? We've got lots of influence without authority, but we're still making choices. And I hope that the kinds of decisions I'm guiding lead to outcomes and not simply outputs. And I know that this concept of outcomes over outputs seems like business speak, but it's a reality where we're saying we want to focus on impact. We want to focus on things that are valuable for our customers, for the companies we work for the organizations we work for our team. And that is a cycle that's awesome because when we can deliver things with outcomes, we feel good. Our team members feel good and our customers get value and our business gets value. And then we can hire more people. And wouldn't that be great? And so I have influenced millions of decisions by this point because all of you make 35,000 decisions a day. So it's not hard to actually influence millions of decisions, but I have. And after a lot of thought, I've distilled my decision-making framework to 3 simple questions. And those questions are, where do we want to go? Where are we coming from? And where should we go next? And I jokingly call these the only 3 questions you ever need. It's pretty much the product mindset simplified. We fundamentally answer, where should we go next? But in order to do that, we have to know where do we want to go and where are we coming from? And when we can answer all 3 of these questions and focus on answering them well, we simplify and we speed up decision. And that's what we want to do for ourselves and for our team. A lot of people ask, why are we not starting with where are we coming from? There are other frameworks that start there. I personally believe that when you start with where you're coming from, you end up being very narrow-minded. When you start with asking, where can we go? Where do we want to go? It's much more expansive. The possibilities are theoretically endless. And I want you to start there because I want you to be thinking about a future that isn't based on what the reality is today, but is based on the possibility of what could be. And so when we answer this question of where do we want to go first, it is much more expansive and allows for many more possibilities, because this question is actually more geared for the long-term vision. This is 3 to 5 years out. What do we think we could do if we could invest everything in getting where we want to go? You might have noticed there's a bit of a navigation thing going on here, lots of where questions. And that's because these questions are inspired by Google Maps. I was teaching a group of associate product managers at Sam's Club, and they were learning all these tools to put into their tool belt so that they could be excellent product managers. And they were asking me how it all fits together. Where does the vision fit? Where does the mission fit? Where does jobs to be done fit? Where do user stories fit? And I said, here's the way it works. It's like Google Maps. The first question it's going to ask you is, where do you want to go? And that's the vision and mission. And the second question it's going to ask you is, where are you coming from? Like, what is point A to reach point B? And then it's going to tell you where to go next. And what's great about Google Maps is we trust it. When we're using Google Maps, we're on autopilot. It says go right, you make a right turn. It says take the express lane, you take the express lane. It says get off the highway and take some side streets, you will follow it. And the reason why you follow it is because it's built your trust. And if we as leaders can provide similar, simple frameworks that everyone can use, we build trust in our decisions, we build trust in their decisions, and we help everyone make these choices more easily. So I created a shorthand for my questions. Where to, where from, where next. And when I deliver this speech in person, I make everyone say it with me because I want to get it in your heads, because it's so easy, because it's 4-ish words. Where gets repeated, right? Where to, where from, where next. Where to, where from, where next. And what's awesome about this is, unlike many other frameworks and guidelines are going to be given, you don't have to go online to download a Canvas. These are words you can write on a whiteboard. These are words you can ask at a bar over a beer. They are mobile, they are local, they are social. They are questions, they open discussion. And what's great about them is when answered properly, they eliminate options. They start creating that decision-making framework where we're striking out ambiguity, where we're striking out uncertainty, and we're helping the people make easier choices. We're helping the people we work with make easier, faster choices. And so let's talk about question number 1. If you remember nothing else from today, I hope it is this value of the question, where to, where do we want to go? Because this is the definition of value. When someone comes to you with an idea, let's just call them the CEO, and they say, hey, I really want to think we should add this feature. Our first questions by default are, okay, do we have somebody to build that? Is there a designer available? Where can I fit this into the roadmap? And all of those questions are feasibility questions. They don't answer the most important question of all, which is, should we do this? Should we invest time in even researching, should we do this? Because time is money, and time is our most valuable resource, and it is non-renewable. But what does it mean to be valuable? If we want to say we want to focus on things that are valuable and not only feasible and ask these valuability questions, what value means is that it helps you get where you want to go, which is why you have to define it. Value is the question of, is this going to help me get closer to my goals, to my objectives, to my vision, to my mission? There are lots of different words that we use to answer where do we want to go. And you probably need a combination of these, to be clear. I personally love the term North Star. The reason why I love North Star is partially because I'm a sailor, but partially because I think about navigators in the 1500s, as well as long before that, being in the middle of the ocean, no land in sight, and being able to look up at the sky at a speck of light and be able to navigate and know where to go with some very primitive tools. How cool is that as a concept? That we could provide something to the people we work with that could be that level of guiding light. that could be that clear to helping them make decisions. Adam Grant, fantastic author, fantastic business leader, he said this and it rung so true to me. Big decisions don't come with a map. There's no answer that anyone's going to give you. But if we as leaders provide a compass, then people can know directionally that they're heading the right way. And that's what we want to do. We want to create this directionality towards a vision, towards a mission, towards our North Star. And I've been lucky enough to be part of a company that's like that. I know many people never have this opportunity because it's rare. But when I was at JustWorks, which is a payroll and benefits company, not sexy, payroll and benefits, I can tell you that every person on that team believed in our mission of helping entrepreneurs grow their business with confidence. And that was emphasized in an incredibly strong North Star metric. We were working towards 100,000 lives covered while I was there. Now they're way past this number. But look at the word lives. It's not users, it's not companies, it's not customers, it's not DAUs or MAUs, lives. It communicated to every single employee that the work we were doing helped people put food on their table, help people pay their rent, help people know with confidence that they could take their kid to the urgent care in the middle of the night and it would be covered. That was our role. And that influenced every decision we made. And that's what you're looking for. You want to be creating North Star metrics. You want to be creating visions and missions that allow for your team to make decisions based on them, that inspire. John Doerr, the father of OKRs, Metrics That Matter, he recently gave a TED Talk out in the West Coast, and he said, we're all doing it wrong. We're all doing OKRs wrong because the objective was supposed to be inspirational. And no one thinks of ARR as inspirational. And no one thinks of MAUs as inspirational. And so what I want you to do is I want you to go back to your team and come up with an inspirational mission, vision, North Star metric that will be exciting for you, that will help you all move in a more positive direction. Because even if you're part of an organization where your leadership has not provided this to you, you can provide it. You can be the person on your team who provides clarity with a decision and provides a where to for your area of influence that allows for you to cut out the ambiguity, to cut out the uncertainty for the people you work with. And now I'm going to give you a tip that I would normally reserve for the executives I work with. What do you do when you need to tell an executive, like the CEO, they haven't actually provided a strong mission or vision? And people are confused because they don't want to hear that. They think they've actually shared it at an all-hands meeting. And so as a form of managing up, what I suggest is that you create a draft of a where to, whether it be a mission, vision, objective, whatever you want it to be. And you bring it to your management and you say, hey, based on what I've heard from you, based on what I've read from you, I believe this is what we're trying to focus on. What adjustments do you think I need to make before I share this with my team? Because I want to provide them guidance for making decisions. It's non-competitive. You're not stepping on anyone's toes. You're saying, in order for me to do my job well, I need this. I created it for my team, not for the whole company. I'm not trying to do your job. But in order for me to do my job well, I need this. And I'm looking to you for feedback because you own this where to. You own this vision. You own this mission. You own this OKR. You own this target goal. You own this North Star, but you haven't actually provided it very well to me. Don't say that, but you say, I want to make sure I've got your context. And it's not going to turn them off. It's going to turn them on to you because you're thinking strategically. And what's amazing is most of the time they start adopting it. You'll hear them say it at a future all hands. You'll hear them write it on a memo because it wasn't clear before to everyone else also. If it wasn't clear to you, chances are there are lots of leaders throughout the company who do not know where you're headed together. And it's powerful because when done right, it can shift everything in a company. When Tinder started, their North Star metric was connections. 2 people swiping right. Over time, they weren't actually delivering what they wanted to, which was people going on real dates. And so they changed their primary metric to be about real connections. And it was about whether or not two people not only connected, but they started a conversation. One person said hi, the other person said hi back. Because that was a much better predictor that they would later meet in a coffee shop, meet in a bar, have an excellent weekend in Berlin, or at some point become lifetime partners. And those were the success stories that built virality. Because when you meet friends that are in a happy relationship and you yourself are single, you say, oh, where did you meet? And they say Tinder. And you said, oh, maybe I should try that out. And when they changed that to be about the real connection, to be about the conversation, their entire algorithm needed to change and their marketing could change. But when you think about their algorithm, if you are the kind of person who was just playing a game, swiping left and right, and you never actually intended to go on a date and you never respond to messages, you're no longer going to show up very often. But the people who are excited to be part of a conversation, to potentially meet offline, those people started to be higher ranked. And it changed the experience, and it changed their metrics, and it changed their trajectory as a company. And so that's why this is so valuable and why you should invest the time in making it happen. Because when we describe a North Star, what we're really describing is a future. We're describing a future of how we want to serve our members, our customers, our partners. And importantly, we want to do this differently than what we do right now, differently than how we currently serve all those groups. And when we go back to Google Maps, what is the default starting point when we're getting directions? It's your current location. And there's a reason for that. 99.something% of the time, the directions you're going from are from where you are right now. And this is the rise of product operations in our world. Quantifying and qualifying, where are we right now? Where are we coming from? Which segments are performing? Which segments are underperforming? What users are saying about our product that they love? What's frustrating them? Let's watch them. Let's supervise them. Let's get into their heads and build empathy and also quantify it. There are people who do SWOT analysis. I think that's fantastic because you look both at what's going on with you internally and externally. What's going on the market research, what trends are out there. That's all about your current location. It's also about your surroundings. And when we do this correctly, what's really cool is this is how we are actually outcome-oriented, data-driven, and agile. Because when we know where we're coming from, and we have an idea of where we're trying to get to, we then can move closer. We can decide on a where next, a data-driven where next. And when we get there to this where next point, we have a new where from. We have now moved. We have a new status quo, which is our new point of reference for how to get closer to where we're trying to get to. And do you know what it really means to be agile? It means to be like Google Maps when it says to you, hey, I found a faster route. You know how we had this whole list of directions we were going to follow? There's a better option out there. In our world, the build trap. We made a long roadmap of things we were going to roll out. But along the way, at our next stop, we learned something. The data shifted, our users shifted, the market shifted. And now there's a different path, which we think is going to have more impact and get us to our destination faster. And that's real agility, being able to say, I can change what I previously thought based on what I learned. And that's the cycle of where from, where next. It's not a bad spiral like our anxiety spiral earlier. It's a positive cycle of growth, getting step by step by step closer to our where to, that outcome that we so much desire. As you start choosing your where next based on your where from, I want you to remember you have options. And of course, I'm going to return to Google Maps for inspiration here. When you get directions on Google Maps, you have the option of driving yourself, taking a public transportation, hailing a cab, biking, or walking. In the business world, this is the build by partner or build by ally question. Is the most efficient, best way for me to get to that next step, for me to do it myself, because it leverages my strengths, because it leverages my competitive advantages, because it leverages the reason why customers love me? Or is it not? Because it doesn't leverage my strengths and it doesn't leverage my competitive advantage and it isn't about what customers love me, I should consider buying it from somebody else, or partnering with somebody else. And I'm going to tell you about a small company, but they will be big because they're thinking correctly about these options. Marine Concepts has a innovative boat cover. Unlike other boat covers, which take 30 minutes to put on, theirs takes 1 or 2 minutes to zip on. They were in 2 markets earlier this year. And they could have done what lots of people suggested, which is to open up an e-commerce site and to run some Facebook ads and market and bring people in and have a TikTok or whatever. But instead they said, we're not good at that. We have IP, we own this, we're good at inventing boat covers and designing great things, but we're not good at that other stuff. And sure, we could develop that muscle, but there are other people who have that muscle. And they thought about their users, what a novel idea. And they thought about their customers. And they said, where do our customers buy boat covers? When do our customers buy covers? When they're buying a boat. That is the most common time to buy a boat cover, when you are buying your boat. And therefore, they partnered. They partnered with dealerships around the country and are now in 20 different markets, because a dealer is more than happy to cross-sell their boat cover, and they're more than happy to demo it because they make extra revenue. And people are more likely to buy it because it's awesome. And they need to see it and feel it, and they're going to do that while they're purchasing their boat. And this sort of growth and this sort of trajectory is only going to happen because they considered, what are our strengths and what are we not that great at? Who can we partner with that can fill in our capability gaps? And so think about that as you're considering your where next. You don't always have to be the people who build it. Sometimes you can hail a cab. Because my hope is that when you utilize these questions, you use them as kill criteria. You can use them as a bit of a pre-mortem to kill the ideas that are not going to have high impact. There are better ideas that you want to move forward with, and these questions can help you do that. When something does not answer and is not aligned with your where to, your vision, do not do it. When something does not leverage your strengths, your competitive advantages, your unique selling propositions, do not do it. If it doesn't build upon the foundation which you are coming from, it's not your best choice. It's not necessarily a bad choice, but it's not your best choice. And we want to invest in the best options. And that's what we want to choose for these where next. So once you choose that strategy of what you're going to focus on, don't shift. Implement the strategy, learn from that experience, and then be agile. Evaluate your new where from, and then choose whether or not you should continue on the path that you've chosen or make adjustments. You're not abandoning the path because you're still heading in the same direction towards your where to, towards your vision. You're simply saying, I've learned there are better ways to get there. So the essence of these 3 questions is just say no. Just saying no to ideas that are not going to help you get to the outcomes you want. Where to, where from, where next. Where to, where from, where next. I mentioned earlier that where to is the most important question, because it's what are your goals? What does success look like? But it's more than that. As leaders, what's interesting is we don't generally answer all 3 questions. If we were to answer all 3 questions, we would be doing everyone's job. As leaders, we want to actually empower teams. Good leadership is empowering teams. And what empowerment can really be distilled down to is answering and sharing on a consistent way where to, where do we want to go, and letting your teams evaluate where they are right now, where they're coming from, and allowing your teams and encouraging your teams to make choices about where to go next on their level. Think about that again. As a leader, you answer where to, and you empower your team to evaluate where from and to establish where next. This is what Marty Kagan's Empowered book is all about. Because if I had to summarize that, it would be called Vision Types Are Better Than Prototypes. Prototypes are prescriptive. They are a direct plan. They are those directions. A vision type is a future-looking thing about how your users and you will interact. When Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech, he said, I have a dream. He did not say, I have a plan. This is something I learned from Simon Sinek's talk, Start With Why. And it's stayed with me for years because that's what empowerment is really about. It's about bringing people to a promised land by showing it to them, by making sure they believe it's possible. And that's what we're doing as leaders. So think about how you can answer where to, set those goals for anything you're doing, whether it's a conversation, a document, a one-on-one you're having, a new job you're looking for. Set your goals. Then understand your strengths, which may be something a team member is going to help you do. And only once you understand your goals, your where to, and where you're coming from, should you choose your next step. Define your where next. And then do it again and again and again. This is what Kaizen is all about. Doing it again and again and again. Incremental change, incremental growth towards your goals. Remembering that a marathon is actually 26 miles put together. That there are 100 points that help us get to the end point. And if we can think about these smaller decisions with the where to in mind, we will make better and faster decisions because we'll realize it's okay if we're wrong. We don't actually need to invest that much time in analysis paralysis. It's okay that we made a choice with a bit of ambiguity out there, but we're going to move forward. We're not going to second guess ourselves. We're going to do it, and we're going to value learning. So you don't have buyer's remorse if you don't have the 100% impact, because you can see that you are getting closer to your goal. You don't have to reach your goal, but you're getting closer. And so you shouldn't be sad about that, and you shouldn't be remorseful about that. And if you can do this properly, you will end the anxiety spiral for your team. They will sleep better, and they will feel better about the work that they're doing, and they will feel more impactful about the work that they're doing. Thank you so much for your time today. I love feedback. You can send me an email. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you want to have me do this for your team, I'm doing it 100 times this year, and I'm literally, I think you guys are like number 42. So scan the QR code, schedule a time. I'd be happy to give this to you or your team, groups of friends, groups of job search councils. I love talking about this because I believe that this framework can really change lives and help everyone lead a better life. Thank you. We're open for questions.
Thank you, Tami. That's really inspirational. I also hear that in the chat, like a simple framework, but so much depth and impact. So that's great to hear. I think we had a question from Harshita who asks how to navigate in an organization when the executives don't have a North Star and the organization are matrices where actually nobody is the real decision maker.
So this was what I talked about with that slide with all the red arrows. So the first thing is, how can you become a decision maker for your area, right? How can you show people that it's better when there is a decision made and it's better when there is a vision, a mission, a North Star? And you can show that by doing it. And your team will be more inspired and they will be more collaborative because they'll be working together towards this goal. So that's first off. Do what you can to influence the area that you can. And then beyond that, you can do what I mentioned about trying to influence and manage up and raise up an idea one level above you. It says, hey, I drafted this idea for what could be our North Star. What do you think about it? I understand that there's this concept of a matricy and there's no real decision maker, but there's always someone who feels like their head is on the plate for the success. You need to find that person because success is defined somewhere, because failure is also understood, right? And so this is where we might get into a pre-mortem where you're like, what does failure look like? What would happen that would cause that failure? And when you start having that conversation, you'll understand who's worried and what they're worried about. And I hope that helps.
Great, thank you so much. And also you mentioned specifically to provide the North Star and then empower the teams to think about where from and where to next. Do you have also recommendations what people usually run into, some challenges and difficulties in doing that?
So I think one of the biggest challenges is alignment, right? Because there are lots of what I like to call internal partners, not stakeholders, who have differing incentives and differing goals. And so if you don't have strong leadership that is aligned towards a common goal, there's going to be contention. And so you have to learn how to navigate that person by person and helping that collaborative cohesion happen. The other thing that I find really hard is when you're a leader, it means that you probably did the job 1, 2, 3 levels below you at some point. And so when people come to you with a question because they can't agree, it's so easy to give them an answer. It's so easy to say, oh, just do this. But that is not strong leadership. That only means they're going to come to you time and time again. And so if you want to be a strong leader, if you want to be a good leader, what you do is you elevate the conversation back to the where to. You say, where are we trying to go right now? Right? And you say to these two individuals who are disagreeing, will you please provide an explanation to your teams, not to me, but to your teams about why you think your idea is worth investing in, why you think your idea is going to have high impact on our goal. And then your team can decide how they want to invest their time. Like, build a case. And what the magic of that is that if one of those two ideas doesn't have a strong case, even if it was the original idea, even if it was the idea that came from the CEO themselves, you can say that's not the right choice. And here's why. We had a very simple framework to look for it. We were looking for impact, right? And that can be very hard to work the muscle memory of not giving that answer, but in time it pays off. And so I also, there's a question that was asked to me personally, but I'm not going to call out your name, but I do think that this question is something that comes up a lot. And so I want to address it because I'm sure that you are not the only one with this. They asked, if you're switching careers into product management, do I have any tips? And so I actually believe that this framework can be used for that as well, because you have a where to. You'd like to be a product manager. That's pretty clear. Think about your where from. What skills do you already have? What market are you already knowledgeable about? If you work in healthcare, think about getting into healthcare tech. If you work in finance, think about getting into fintech. If you're a teacher, ed tech, right? See where you already have value to provide to potential employers and start there. Then think about where next. What company should be applying to? What additional skills around product should I be developing that'll make me more attractive? How do I learn the lingo, etc.? I actually, in an exciting news, lots of slides, but there's a slide somewhere. Oh, no. I'm looking for, I have a children's book that for some reason is not showing. But I wrote this children's book called What Do Product Managers Do? And a primer for aspiring PMs of all ages. It's still in draft mode, but I'm going to share it with you because I like sharing things and I like getting feedback. And it's a great way to just learn the basic lingo of product. And so by all means, check it out. Give me some feedback. Look out for a YouTube video of it. And Xander, is it okay if I answer the next questions that are here?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Stop share. Now we can all see me and I can see the chat better. Have you seen any difference in the where to, where from, where next with product management for physical products? For example, a blender or juice machine versus technical products as a feature. So timeline is generally different for anything that's hardware, but what occurs to me is that you're not building a blender or a juice machine. You're trying to help someone lead a healthier lifestyle or be faster at cooking or whatever it is. And you have to get to the core value of what you're trying to produce. And so independent of whether or not it's a physical or a technical product or your own career or your own choice of vacation, when we better define where we're trying to go, what that goal is, or where to, it makes those other choices easier. When you're evaluating your where from, you may not have a prototype yet. You may not have molds yet. You may not have a production facility wherever you're planning on producing. You may not have the right insurances or the right seller relationships, right? You can still say, we have this where too, where we want to be the #1 blender or the #1 juice maker in the world. And we want to help people who are trying to lead healthier lives get this done and say, okay, where are we now? How many customers do we have? What's the features that we have? What is our product doing, et cetera? And then choose a where next because of it. So I don't really see any reason why this wouldn't work, only that you have to understand that your cycle from where from to where next may be longer. And that you probably want to have more investment after your each where next in evaluating where from to decide your next step of action, because it's so much more of an investment and therefore you want to get it right. And so you might do, so when I worked for Melissa Perry, we talk about the product kata, and that sometimes your next step is actually research because your current state is that you don't know. And so I could see that as part of the cycle, is like my where from is I don't have enough confidence, I don't have enough knowledge about what we should do next. And I want to specifically learn about this. The next step is actually to do research, not necessarily build. And so that's what I would say. I hope that's helpful, Anastasia. All right. I'm looking for a breakthrough into the US market. Do you have any tips for international graduate students who aspire to be PMs? What should be my next star to reach next step to reach the North Star? Honestly, nowadays you can be anywhere in the world and be a product manager. I don't know why you would need to come to the US because there's such a remote culture. But the first thing, as I mentioned earlier, is to understand what your benefit is. So like you've got experience in software as a platform. I'm assuming that's what you meant by SAP, but maybe you mistyped it and it's software as a service. And you've got value, you have knowledge. Like the best place to become a PM the first time is in a place where you already have a job. Because you know the customer, you know the product, you know the market, you know the company culture, and they don't have to ramp up a new hire on that. You already have that. You have to ramp up on the product management skills, but you're starting out in a different category. And so you can volunteer for a project or an initiative or something else, which will help you prove that you have the product mindset, that you care about customers, that you care about adding customer value and business value. And that's where I would say start first. Start with people who trust you, start with people who already have confidence in you, who you're a known entity. Oh, service as a product. Okay, service as a product is a whole other thing. That's not really a product, it's a service. But maybe, so in service industries, we talk about this at Kellogg, sorry, Babson. If you're in a service industry, products come in two varieties, but they most often are tools that the people delivering service can use to be more efficient and more effective. And then you might sell those tools to your customers, but first and foremost, you use internal users as your use case, and you want to make them be able to deliver services faster, better, et cetera. And so those are the kinds of products you might build. All right, we've got a new question. You spoke about how the framework can empower PMs and teams to work independently and more creatively. I assume this happens best when a team's planning supports the organizational goals, similar to OKRs. Sure. Can you speak to how you've seen teams support the org's North Star and how teams can be more comfortable choosing one objective over another? Okay, so at JustWorks, where we had this North Star metric we were going towards, there were on an annual basis, 3 to 5, no more than 5, clear objectives that the entire company was marching towards that were going to help us get closer to that. So for instance, it might be something as big as being California ready. And those sort of level objectives have lower level objectives that each of the teams needed to work on. It involved customer service, extending their hours. It involved the regulatory and compliance teams learning about making sure all of our stuff was in order with all the laws in California. It involved the sales team starting to hire people who knew how to sell in California, and a variety of other things that involved product and customer service and legal, et cetera. And each of those teams had a corresponding objective that they were responsible for when it came to being California ready, being regulatory ready, being customer service ready for California. And then they had key results, the key results that they needed to be able to do. We have X number of people who are available for this shift. That's a key result, right? We have this number of salespeople who are going to be on different hours and live in California. We know we can check off all of these compliance things around payroll. We have other compliance things around benefits. That's a different set of key results, et cetera, et cetera. And so the objectives should cascade. And then on an individual team, there should be key results, which are reflective of that. The North Star metric is a way of measuring the collective objectives on an ongoing basis towards your mission, towards your vision. And you can similarly have a North Star for your product. A lot of us work on products that are part of larger suites. What is the North Star that you're trying to impact for your users? Right? You're trying to create more connections. You're trying to have more documents shared, more collaboration to happen, more friends made, more information shared. If you're LinkedIn, there's a North Star for each area when you have like big suites of products. LinkedIn Recruiter's North Star is different than LinkedIn Regular, right? Sales Navigator is different than the rest of it. And to know your North Star, to know what your vision is for your area and how it contributes to the higher level North Star is important. And as product people, we are so crucial in connecting those dots. We are the right people to help connect those dots. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from everyone here? I think there was already so much to think about, Tami. So
and I minimized it. I like had extra frameworks and things, and I was like, nope, we've got too many concepts we're introducing. So I'm glad that you all enjoyed it.
I also got the question if you would be willing to share some of the slides that you presented. We might see how we can maybe attach it to an email that we can send afterwards to provide the information.
Yes, I actually have been meaning to do that because as you might have noticed, there's lots of slides at the end, and that also means there's a lot of hidden slides and skip slides, and Google is really bad at save to PDF from that. But I will create a version and allow you to download it as a PDF because I would love to see how you all try to implement this. I get pictures and screenshots from different people using it in different ways, and it makes me really happy. So I'd love to hear about all the different ways you are potentially implementing this.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you so much. Then I think we're gonna close for today. So thank you. Really a big thank you, Tami. It was an awesome talk and a lot of inspiration and new tips that we can all work with on a daily basis. So big thank you for being here today.
Thank you for making the time. I know that we had to coordinate and all these things, and you should know that like Xandra and Hillary, like they have things to do. Like this is not so like it's not a nothing. So really you should be grateful to the BPMA team who's helping you out, and technically to Evan Cox who helped introduce me to you, crew, who's on the board.
Yes, so we're more than happy to do it. So everyone have really a great day, and we'll see you hopefully at the next event. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.